Ladies and gentle beings, welcome to Memes Testing, where I play games wrong and see if they're still completable. Today we continue our avian tour of looters with Borderlands. We will be attempting to complete the entirety of this game with only Bloodwing. This is the action skill of Mordecai, and he always was my go-to when playing this game for fun. But before we can have any fun, we need the Burb himself. And unfortunately, we do not unlock our action skill until level 5. And it isn't possible to escape the tutorial area without killing some enemies. So we've hit an impasse. How do you level up without leaving this area? Well, now we get into my specialty, repetitive nonsense. Borderlands has an achievement system, and it rewards a small amount of experience for doing things like opening chests or shooting a gun. In this case, we won't be killing anything with guns, but we will harass this mushroom for fun. This is fine, as the rules for this are that we can only intentionally kill enemies with Bloodwing, so pointless patriotism is all good here. After a few hours, we've made it to our boy, and we finally get out of the tutorial. At least, once we can kill these guys. It's just going to take 24 seconds per attack. Let's hope we one-shot everyone for the foreseeable future. We make it on into Firestone and meet Zed and Claptrap. After some basic quests, we can get to the first boss of this game, Nine Toes. This is our first real test to see if this will be possible, and we don't do enough damage. The shield he has will start regenerating after 10 seconds of not taking damage, so we need to be able to take his whole shield in a single hit and deal just a little bit more damage in order to chip him down, all while we are shot, bitten and spit at, so this is going to be fun. After a few more side quests, we've maxed out the Swift Strike skill, and Bloodwing now does double the base damage. This is barely enough, so that now we can slowly chip down our tri-testicled foe. Next up, the voice in my head tells us we need to catch a ride and jump over the nearby gully. But some bonehead stole the digital doodad that allows us to make cars. This proved harder than Nine Toes. While we are not locked into a boss area, Bonehead is much higher in level, and honestly, just a little more than we can handle right now. I tried baiting in the local wildlife, but this chunkin' lad makes short work of them. Eventually, I was able to kill him by cheesing his range over this fence. We did it, but it took quite a while. With the cooldown on each attack being 24 seconds, it looks like this will take several days to finish. Now that we have a car, we can make our way to Sledge's safe house. And after finding that every enemy is taking 2 to 3 hits to kill, we're gonna have to grind and come back later. Now we can make it through without issue, but we have hit a roadblock at the end of the area when Chungus over here decides to jump us with his mates. That's fine, I'll just throw out Bloodwing and, well, back to grinding. After checking back in every level, we are finally able to get this one after using the elemental artifacts that can be picked up from the side quests. Currently, we have a choice of Shock or Incendiary, one for shields and one for raw flesh, and this man is flesh incarnate, so we burn him down. Even with everything being in our favor, we did still have to be 6 whole levels ahead of the curve to beat him, but it was still possible. We pick up the mine key and move on to the leader of these bandits, Sledge, and this is who our ghostie has been sending us to find, as he has a key to the vault. Luckily for us, we also now have access to class mods from this point on, and we find one that provides health regeneration in the shop. Unluckily for us, we have a new mechanic for bosses. After Sledge's shield is popped, he will fully regenerate it after some time, opposed to only regenerating it when not damaged like previous foes. But after some additional leveling and use of the shock artifact, we can just barely break the whole shield and deal a sliver of damage with a single hit. And as long as we've got this new class mod, we do regenerate health constantly. So as long as we are always on the move or hiding, we should be able to chip him down while staying relatively healthy. So all we need to do is pop out on cooldown for Bloodwing, and it's a win. Now that we have one part of the vault key, we need to go find the second. But before we can continue to it, we have to deal with Mad Mel. But before we can deal with Mad Mel, we first have to deal with his runners. This should not be so bad. I mean, they're fast, but... oh, immune to fire. Fine. A shock. Okay. Normal damage? Well, this is awkward. I guess we call it here. We can't progress the main story without killing these patrols, and since they're immune to Bloodwing, that's kinda it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hey, don't look at the time left in the video. We still have to finish this meta joke before we do another one. So yeah, Bloodwing can't kill these guys, and I will admit, it took me a long time to try and figure out how to proceed, but as it happens, I found an interesting interaction between these guys and the local wildlife. As they are neutral mobs, they can damage each other, but they're only interested in me for the most part. So, say if a runner gets stuck and we baited some of the local wildlife to it, it will eventually be defeated. But the question is, do we get credit for it? Well, yes, we do. Problem solved. And now all we need to do is go beat Mad Mel, and... oh, he doesn't spawn until his runners in the arena are dead. Well, there's no local wildlife here, so, that's awkward. I guess we call it here, and... okay, no. So we don't technically have to kill them. If we flip them with our car and keep them immobilized, the crew eventually pop out the vehicle, and we can kill them individually. And no, this doesn't actually work with the previous quest. I tried. That was specifically to kill the runners, but in this case, the game is just counting the moving or manned runners before Mel comes out to play. Thankfully, we do luck out on this one, and Mel can be damaged with Bloodwing, so we have an easy win. We make our way to Crom's Canyon. This guy has the next third of our vault key. He sits at the top of his canyon in a turret while we have to run to the end and beat him in a gauntlet of endurance and movement management. This game of extreme peekaboo did dissolve in tension as soon as we did get up close, as we have barely enough cover to just tickle him to death and claim the next part of our key. Next we get a line on the final part of our key, but to get there we will need the help of Taylor Cobb. He wants us to kill his brother Janus. Okay, fine, that's my specialty. We play peekaboo until he gives up, and once we try and turn in the quest, we're betrayed by Taylor as he's taken over his brother's turf, and we have to put him down for his troubles. Now unimpeded, we can make it to the Trash Coast and talk to Crazy Earl, pick up a few beers, and just have a pleasant time until we meet the next boss. Arguably, this is the most iconic fight in the game. The Rack Hive, this gargantuan gynecological generator, is the source of all the Rack we've been fighting up till this point, and a neat detail is that these have been littered throughout the game, just buried in the ground. But this one is here to fight, and while it's not a complicated fight, we get rolled every time, as we just don't have the ability to deal with this many targets at a time. Now you may be thinking that's odd, as there is specifically a skill that allows Bloodwing to target more than one enemy each release. But it doesn't. It just does not work. As you can see, Bloodwing just refuses to go for any more than one enemy at a time. And honestly, I just can't blame him. I'm also done with this, but we must continue until we win. So, I did a bunch of the DLC, nothing crazy and no bosses of note, but it was solely for the levels at this point, and after over-leveling the Hive by 9 levels, we are just barely able to beat the Hive. Now we can get the final part of the key and make our way to the sweet release of death. We now need to make it to the vault, but to get there we need to go to Baron Flint, who has the tools to get us down there, but to get to him we need a claptrap that's been taken by the Crimson Lance in New Haven. Fortunately, there's no trigger in New Haven at all other than the actual quest handed into the claptrap, so we walk past every single Crimson Lance member, let claptrap out, take the quest, and just leave him there. On to Baron Flint, and he is on a massive saw in the desert, but before we get to it, we need to kill 4 outrunners, and this time there's no wildlife to assist. But for some reason, the explosive element works a treat on these guys, so I'll take an easy win. We go up to Flint and stomp him and his goons, as we are much too over-leveled to care at this point, and we learn that the Crimson Lance have taken Tanis, the researcher that has been helping us so far, so we have to go break into their facility and break her out. We walk into the prison and free Tanis, and restore the airways that the Lance took over just after we defeated Flint, and Master MacLeod is the boss of this area, and outside of him existing, there is nothing of note here. One exercise in object permanence later, and we move on to the final fight. This is where things get real. The Lance are fighting the ancient aliens protecting the vault, and we just run past it all to meet their leader, Commandant Steele. She's a siren, a mystical set of women in this universe, and... Oh, it turns out the vault is a prison holding an eldritch monster, and not a massive jar of chocolate-covered gold. Well, that's kind of awkward for her now, isn't it? Well, now we have to face the Destroyer. This massive tentacled monster has a massive weak spot and is begging to be shot, but we cannot. Luckily, it can be damaged by Bloodwing, so we just slowly chip it down at this point in a fight that lasts just over 20 minutes per attempt, but we can do it. But it is done. We did it. All of this to make our imaginary friend in the sky happy. And saving the world, or something. Overall, this was painful, and I do not recommend anyone that values their time do this. The whole thing took the better part of 40 hours to beat, and honestly, the guns are just way more fun to use. With that being said, I'm not sad that I completed this, as it did provide the right balance of problem solving and repetition that scratches my brain just right. Oh, and for all those non-believers, I am including the achievement progress on screen now for the kills with each weapon. Clean sweep of zeros. A whole load of nothing has never been this satisfying. If you are still here, I appreciate your time, and if you think it was well spent, a like or subscribe goes a long way in letting me know. If you have any suggestions for other challenges, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you when we do the next thing.